How's it going, guys? This is a Pathfinder play video. This is actually Rise of the Runelords. I've been running this campaign as GM for I would say probably about 2 months or so. We're actually in the second chapter. We're at the Skinsaw Murders section, but before I had the PCs actually leave and investigate further into the second part of this chapter to the sanitarium, I actually sort of threw them off and had them do this kind of like crazy little like side story thing. And honestly, I actually completely pulled this one out of my ass. I had them pretty much. They were in a different part of town that they'd actually never been to. This is in Sandpoint. And this isn't related to the actual Sandpoint map in this Rise of the Runelords book if you guys have it. But I pretty much had them go to a sort of like a slums sort of side of town. And there were three buildings. Well, the three main buildings on the very, very northernmost side of the map. And then there was like two smaller ones. Those I would say are probably something like a cottage or some sort of house where some of the locals would actually live. But anyway, the sort of scenario that I actually set up was sort of interesting. I had sort of two dwarf-like characters that were both shop owners. The middle building was a shoe shop, and the leftmost building was actually a flower shop. There was two brothers. Each brother actually owned a different shop, and at first, whatever building the PCs actually enter doesn't really matter. But I first had them actually enter, or they actually chose to enter the shoe shop, which was the middle shop first. It was shoes and flowers. Flowers was the left side. Shoes was the middle side. But the brothers actually own all three buildings. I'll get to the right building last. Well, they walk in. Of course, it's a very colorful, flamboyant dwarf. Very strange. I believe he had purple hair, crazy voice, and the PCs were completely thrown off because there were actually no signs or anything saying what type of building this was. But I think that at the time they were going through the slums looking for someone to sell them potions, which I don't know why they were looking in the slums. I believe, I don't know, the potion shop was closed or something. So they went exploring throughout the city, and they stumbled upon these three buildings, which a knowledge local check, I believe, even took them to this sort of area. I think one of the people that actually rolled it actually rolled fairly low, so it was sort of something like they weren't really sure. It was kind of shady, rumor that they heard, but they took a chance, and they wound up here. So anyway, the middle building was run by the one brother. I only came up with a name for one brother, and honestly, if you guys use this sort of scenario, feel free to go off with it and stuff like this. Like I said, I pulled this completely out of my ass. The middle building, shoe shop, like I said, very flamboyant dwarf, very excited. Very simple room. He only has a few different selective like products that he actually sells. Some very common, just simple shoes. He's just sort of like a simple shoemaker, which is sort of strange because he's so flamboyant. And he actually wears the very important part, and something that you can maybe throw off a group, is he was actually wearing these very strange like silk shoes. And that is a major point in this sort of scenario. So he's wearing these strange, like, they're almost like socky, like almost like slippers, which was kind of like weird. But anyway, they were like silk shoes. So he's wearing these silk shoes, and he's trying to get you focused on these like sort of drab, like boring leather shoes. And there's a closet. There's like no doors. There's like two windows, one on each side of the walls, the left and the right wall. And there's a door to enter, and then there's also a door in the back. And as he's talking and trying to get your focus, or the PC's focused on these sort of drab shoes, he's trying to sell these even though they're not even interested or looking for anything about shoes. You hear like sort of like a couple knocks, or like somebody like banging on that door in the very back, and he sort of tries to take your attention off of it, and then he seems sort of stubborn, and then he wants you guys to sort of leave and sort of kicks you out. So you're like, okay, well, he totally locked the door behind him. So you're like, okay, well, that was sort of strange. So then they went to the left room, and the left room was actually, come to find out, as the PCs walk in, it's actually a flower shop, and there's a bunch of flowers lining all the walls. Sort of same setup, same room setup, just two windows on left and right side of the wall. There's a door in the back, and then instead of like sort of like a desk I think I had the shoe shop having, there's just a single chair facing the door, and the person sitting in the chair facing the door is none other than the guy that was actually just the dude that you actually just talked to in the shoe shop, or what you think is him. Which this is where I sort of threw the PCs off, because I explained the guy, and I also take note, this is where you can sort of throw people off if they're not really paying attention to you or very observant. Tell him about his shoes, and those shoes are the same exact silk ones that the dude in the other room wore. Now, this will be very important later. Like I said, it's a very simple scenario, but I thought it was creative, especially pulling out of your ass. So, the guy is sitting there. He's actually asleep, which is, I thought, is weird for the character. But the dude's asleep, and he's facing this closet door, or what you think is a closet. It's a door. It seems to go nowhere. And the PCs walk in, try and wake him up, and like shake him almost, and he acts like he's never known you, acts like he's a completely different person, but it's actually the same dude that was in the shoe shop. But anyway, the guy actually tries to sell you a bunch of plants and all this stuff like that. Well, he offers you this one plant, and it's actually a plant that is the most, like, it's a very rare plant, and no one's ever seen it. It's one of a kind, all this stuff like that. He doesn't necessarily tell you what it does, which you kind of have the creativity as a GM. If you are GMing, you have the creativity to do whatever with whatever this plant does. It could do nothing. It could be, you know, a potion tree or something like that. But it's like a purple flower plant, and there's only one in existence, which is very true. There is only one of these in existence, but it's sort of like a wild card plant. You can kind of do it with whatever you want. But anyway, the guy is asking an extremely high price. I think I said like 2,000 gold. The characters are only about level 7, or it was probably even more than that. I think it was like 4,000 they asked for. It was a ridiculous amount. It was like all of the PCs would have had to put all of their gold and sell things to get this plant that they don't even know what it does. And so they turned down the offer for sure, but they were like super curious at what it did. And they were like harking on me, you know, like, what does it do? Could you give us a hand? Could we like do like a roll for it? And I was like, I'm not going to tell you what it does. And come to find out, they go back later, super funny. So actually the guy at the sanitarium, I had it to where the dude at the sanitarium actually wanted that specific plant that he heard rumors about, to actually talk to one of the guys that you actually need to interrogate. You had to actually get him this plant, or you had to pay him either a lot of money or get this plant. Now, that was completely like not in the book whatsoever, but it was interesting and it was actually really funny. So you can kind of take this idea wherever you want. So this dude wants this plant, And also there's a rumor that the lady at the potion shop is wanting this plant. So obviously this plant is of value to the PCs. Again, they don't know what it does, and it's up to you guys. So take this plant, and the PCs actually decided to break in to the flower shop. Now this is where it gets interesting. They broke into the flower shop, nothing there. They find out that the door in the back is just a closet filled with nothing. Okay. And the plant's not there. Except there are just normal plants that are out and about the shop. So the guy decides, or the guy, Vincent, the halfling bard, actually decides to, and actually two of the characters went to the bar because they wanted no part of it, one being a paladin and one a samurai. The other two, which was a wizard and a bard, decide to break into this flower shop. Now, this is where I made it interesting, and Vincent actually decided to steal these plants because he was pissed that that plant wasn't there. They weren't sure if it was sold already by the time they closed up, or if the dude took it home with him just for extra safekeeping, but the plant's not there. So Vincent was mad, stole the plants, and as he was stealing all the plants, they were completely, he's only 3'3", so he's completely holding these plants, in his arms. They leave, they exit the door. Right as they exit, Baylor Hemlock. And if you guys don't know who that is, it's actually the sheriff of Sandpoint. I had him actually patrolling out and about, and it just so happened that Baylor actually heard of a break-in and witnessed the PCs, which are the main characters and quite good friends with Baylor, completely caught red-handed. Now this was an awkward situation, and I won't go into too big of depth of how they got out of it. Ended up, Vincent is actually serving a sentence in jail, as well as the wizard, who is with him, sort of an accessory to the crime. But that is a super long story about how they attempted to get out of it. But back to the main story. Eventually they got back out, and they actually went back to the place, and they went to the shoe shop. And whenever they went back to the shoe shop, it ended up being that the dwarf, which, keep in mind, very important, that dwarf specifically was not wearing those silk, booty type things. Now, that's where it got interesting, because supposedly the dude with the silk booties was actually his brother. And his brother actually had a secret tunnel going from the flower shop to the shoe shop. And actually, the brother, which was the dude with the silk booties, locked the other brother, which is the brother that's currently the PCs would be talking to without the booties, was actually locked in the closet, and that was actually the banging that the PCs originally heard whenever they first entered the shoe shop. And the brother was actually sort of stingy, greedy, and wanted to make money off of both businesses without actually legitimately taking money from the brother. He thought he'd get away with it if he just locked him in a closet and ran both businesses by way of the underground tunnel between both of the businesses. It was funny. I mean, I think the PCs got a kick out of it. You can really get kind of crazy with it and super flamboyant with that character and both brothers and how they interact. I mean, you could take that idea anywhere you want. Also, before I forget and let you guys go, I completely forgot to talk about the room on the right. The room on the right the building on the right is actually sort of a wild card building. I actually switched it up and actually told the PCs that supposedly, and actually the dwarf at the end, finally, once he makes friends and introduces himself to the PCs, actually tells them about the building and that it is actually enchanted by some sort of prankster elf mages that wanted to sort of pull a prank on their fellow dwarf friends, and they actually enchanted the building, so whenever you would actually enter and exit, you would actually exit somewhere else in Sandpoint. Like, for example, the PCs actually entered this building, there was actually nothing inside, walked outside, and they ended up actually being in the main market courtyard, actually walking out of the potion shop where they actually originally wanted to be. So you can definitely have fun with this entire story. You know, make it and mold it as much as you want. I usually have some troubles finding ideas and sort of like filler little side quests that are interesting, and I think it was a cool idea to share with you guys, and I hope you guys definitely enjoy it, and hopefully, you know, get some laughs out of it and make it your own, because that's really what this game's all about. Thanks.